The world watched them grow up and now it seems grow apart. A new book about the inner workings of the royal family is set to shine a light on claims of a rift between Princes William and Harry. Among the insights in Battle of Brothers is the claim that the Queen viewed Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as erratic and impulsive in the lead-up to their exit from royal life. Its author, royal biographer Robert Lacey, joins me now. Hello to you, Robert. Great to see you. This feud between the two brothers, the breakup of the Fab Four, as they became known, has provided much tabloid fodder over recent years and months. How real and how deep does it go?
I think it goes pretty deep, and it goes actually back to the years when you were a royal correspondent, but none of us knew about it in those days. You were in the early years of the 21st century, wasn't it? You were following, and in those days the boys were teenagers. We didn't know then that the patterns that we now see were developing then. That those were the teenage years when Prince Charles was intent on wooing and wedding Camilla. He spent a lot of time away from home. Highgrove, they had this extraordinary discotheque down in the cellar called Club H. Don't know if you knew about it at the time. I certainly didn't. But all sorts of things happened there. Well, nothing really improper, but wild teenage life. Harry was the younger one, 2 years younger and a bit than William. And he was tied up in this fast set. And of course, if you remember, you probably covered this, he got into trouble. There was a drug scandal, and then there was the occasion when he wore the Nazi uniform. And he came out of these incidents as the villain. William, who'd gone with him to choose the uniform, went with him to the party, came out smelling like a rose, because that, of course, is how we want to... William is... the golden hope of the monarchy. We're not quite sure what we make of a future King Charles III or Queen Camilla. We know we love the idea of a future Prince William, Kate, such a marvelous couple. But inevitably, Harry had to play the role of the spare to the heir.
And it was he turned things around, though, hadn't he, Robert, in terms of his reputation? He was hugely well regarded for his military career, the work that he'd done with veterans, for example. And when he met and married Meghan Markle, there was a real hope that this young couple could help the future of the monarchy and modernising them. And yet it all went wrong.
Well, let's hope it's not all gone wrong. Let us hope that, I think there are signs that they remain close. They speak on the phone. I think next year will be the year of challenge. One of the advantages, of course, of Harry being a spare in the years you're talking about, look at them there, the two of them. I mean, that's how we remember them. That's how we'd like to see them again. Harry, as the spare, was actually able to go to war in Afghanistan in a way that William couldn't. The British press kept the vow of secrecy. You're right. You're talking about years which were a comeback. And in a way, Meghan was the climax of the comeback, focusing Harry on all sorts of new directions. But, they became, in a way, too successful. There they are getting that marriage with the Afro-American preacher, that memorable sermon that seemed to go on so long. He later talked about hearing the slaves cheer him as he wed this couple. Now, there's a great dimension that Meghan seemed to bring to the royal family, a mixed-race recruit. Such a tragedy that that hasn't worked through, and it's one of the challenges for the future for the monarchy, I think.
Did she, Meghan, underestimate the power of the institution, that it wasn't willing to bend? And on the other hand, did it underestimate her, that she wasn't willing to be forced to fit into its conventions?
You've got it. You've obviously studied the subject, Sarah, because it is both sides. So many people take one side or the other, say it's Meghan was entirely to blame. But as you say, I think with hindsight, it's clear that the palace, when they saw this self-made, successful woman, a celebrity in her own right before she met Harry, a millionairess in her own right before she met Harry. She was unlike anyone had been before in the royal family. She has these dedicated beliefs, feminism, social change. There is the cutting edge. Her dedication to these causes, of course, has clashed with the royal tradition of impartiality. And that's going to be one of the challenges that's going to have to be sorted out in the future if the couple are going to come back in some way into the family.
And let's talk a little bit about that announcement that they were stepping back from royal duties. They wanted this sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of arrangement. It led to the Sandringham summit, and you write about that moment.
Yes, and that was a moment of family fury, really, because of the way that Harry had lost his temper and had released prematurely, in the rest of the family's view, his plans for moving abroad with Meghan. But William, of course, also has a temper. When I started writing the book, people would say, you know, both brothers can fly off the handle. And that's what happened before the Sandringham summit. The Queen organized the so-called summit, a meeting in the afternoon, invited the family to come beforehand to sort of try and rub off some of the rough edges. William actually refused. He said he would only sit down with his brother at the negotiating table with his negotiating team. And that's something that's got to change in the future. I think both sides have got to realize that to do what we want, I mean, I think we all would love to see them back at this time of trouble, a government losing its way. I mean, let's not make political judgments, but we have this wonderful British system. We have a government on one side to do the work that we elect. We have this ancient hereditary institution on the other side to inspire us, to set an example, to use an old-fashioned term. The Queen did this brilliantly at the beginning of the coronavirus first spike, her wonderful speech. There she was up on the side of Piccadilly Circus. What's happening now? All we've got is evidence of disagreement. And well, it's my hope that next year we may see a happier story and the two brothers coming back towards each other in some way.
The Queen, in that Sandringham summit and the statements issued afterwards, treading that line between the grandmother and the monarch, how do you think she views the behaviour of Prince Harry and Meghan, and increasingly now their new life and the roles they're carving out for themselves in the United States?
Well, it's very difficult and delicate to speculate about, you know, the thoughts and feelings of the Queen. We know that she loves Harry as a grandmother. We know that back, was it early March this year, she deliberately invited Harry for a private Sunday lunch right in the middle of all the trouble to talk to him, to tell him that any time he wanted to come back, he would be very welcome. She feels an almost, well, yes, it's not wrong, a sort of, there's such a link between the Queen, who saw those boys through the tragedy of their mother's death, but she has a job to do. She's got a royal family with standards to uphold. And at that stage, she didn't feel that the commercial plans that the Sussexes were putting forward were dignified, were royal. So she said, you can't call yourself Sussex Royal, sorry. If you want to create some sort of company to make money, you'll have to call yourself something else. At that, she drew the line. And one can only sympathize with the Queen's plight and feelings, torn as she is between her love for this troubled boy, but also the consequences of the difficult upbringing that both he and William had.
Robert Lacey, author of Battle of Brothers, thank you very much indeed. Fascinating to talk to you.
Thank you, Sarah.